too.
Hey everyone, it's time to get weird with
go.
Corvus Ocean, or Oskin, however you'd like to say it, and Jimmy over on the right-hand side of me. But we have Joel remotely trying the new technologies, as he quoted it, and we'll see if it doesn't crash into a burning pile of nothing here. So, but we did say we might go live later in the day, so
It might catch on fire. I don't know.
if it catches on fire, start driving very slowly.
Right.
Send help.
If the internet catches on fire, I'll just run out the door and get in my car and drive away.
Yeah.
I did already burn the rice while we were in here setting this up. So
That's impressive. I think that's like a first. I didn't, it takes so much water. Some serious neglect has to go on, I think.
right. Well, the my lovely spouse Victoria is making a gigantic. She literally has it's like a 12-gallon pot on the stove that she's making jam in. So it may or may not have been an operator error. Somebody may have turned a knob here or there and confused the two.
Not saying names or anything like that. Just the only other person in the house.
It was me or her. It was one of us.
Yes.
It wasn't the dogs. It wasn't either of the dogs. I can say it wasn't them. They got baths tonight, so they're not feeling feisty, if you know what I'm
water
saying.
change your dogs like you water change your fish once a week.
Yeah, I'm gonna water change my dog.
Yep.
You have to water change this dog. Yeah.
Ooh, here we go. Well, I got the phlegm going. If you were to have stocked your tank with monster fish instead, what would I have chosen? Like in this tank? I was kind of close to doing Paku, because it's one of the few fish I haven't really done. Like, I've kept him for a little bit, but not like long term. And I know I'd have to get a bigger tank, but Paku, because they look so gnarly, and then they just want to eat like fruit and veggies and nuts and stuff. So,
Yeah, I've never grown one up. I've only ever had to deal with giant ones.
coming into a fish store, yeah, it's pretty much everyone. Like, I think I grew one in I think I adopted one at 6 inches and then got it to like a foot, and then it goes back to the store yep. So now the problem's bigger.
Right.
So
Yeah. Now I've got this big carrot-eating fish.
unfortunately, we're still getting echo. We got to build a better ghetto sound barrier. We're just gonna buy one, but we've got a WeatherTech box, and I think it's the wrong kind of tech. We've invested in the wrong kind of tech. WeatherTech
It's
box.
literally a box.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So we need to build a better mousetrap on that one.
Yep.
So if you hear the Corey being an overbearing sound idiot, it's my fault. I'll try to keep it down.
Well, as things go, we have to work through the technology here of exactly how many microphones do we need in order to get this done.
I see 6.
Is it?
What? 6?
Yeah, like there's one in front of me.
Oh yeah.
One right here, and then 4 for you guys.
Well,
True.
luckily I only have to operate one, although I have 2 set up. This one doesn't have to do anything because no one's monitoring my sound. Well, Jimmy is, but I can just send you one feed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you got
could.
the easy part.
I could just totally mute you.
That's right. I could mute myself from over here,
Oh, wait, where's the...
waving my arms around like a maniac, and
So, I've got. Oh, there you go. You got the badunch going. I have my tank at 82 degrees. Ambient temperature is 70 degrees ish. I seem to have a lack of oxygen. Is it because of the heating? It shouldn't be. I mean, I think there's kind of a misconception. Like, obviously on the internet, when you read something and then you take it to like the nth degree of insanity. So I do own a dissolved oxygen meter, and at 82 degrees in my testing, water holds like 2% less oxygen than if it was like 75 degrees. So it's such a negligible difference that I think it's being blown out of proportion. So I don't think temperature is your problem.
Corvus made himself small, or I didn't press anything. Did you
No,
press anything?
it's just doing that, I think. I was wondering what was going on, but it's just doing
What?
that.
That's
That's not me. I'm not changing any settings.
Is that a Wirecast like special feature?
In regards to that temperature question with the oxygen in the water, yes, it will drop a little bit. The hotter water is, the less oxygen it can hold. But
weird.
at 82 degrees isn't something that should be that far out of the realm, especially if you're turning water over or running a bubbler or, anything. Along those lines, should be adding enough oxygen into the water column to not be a problem.
Yeah, and to be fair, on very high levels of stocking, if you increase the temperature, you will bring the oxygen down more, and it's a catch-22 of the water holds slightly less oxygen, but speeding up the metabolism of the fish. Like if you take a white cloud and you put it at 85 degrees, it's so stressed, it's breathing really fast, and if you had a billion of those things, they would use up more oxygen. So
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, did we fix the Wirecast, or does it still have a mind of its own?
I don't know. That's freaking.
I think
weird.
it adjusts to the size of his ego currently, because he shrunk down, but then he got huge, and then he was I don't know, he's summon his power. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you got the rim shot. That's the real. That's how you know when the jokes have happened.
That's right. Cue your laughter after the rim shot happens.
Mm-hmm.
So the trip already over? It is already over. We came back, and good time. Next time we're going to wrangle... I think we could wrangle a third person in the van, and we drive all the time. I think we could do 3. And I think it's just way better to drive places than it is to fly. It's cheaper. It takes more time, but we can do a lot more cool things, too. So...
I don't understand this shrinking thing.
Is it still doing it?
I don't know. It
Yeah,
just
I don't know
does. It's one of the features of the internet is that it gets bigger and smaller every once in a while.
Well,
It might have something to do with the signal. I wonder.
Right.
Well,
If,
in theory, it's supposed to only change. We have a preview window and then a live window. So in case
yeah, it's only changing in the live window. It's not changing in my previews.
yeah, which that's the weirdest part. So if you had a naked streamer or streaker run by, we could switch angles, right? Or a news show, but
That's right. You just close it.
yeah, and it's not working that way. It's fine on the preview. So
Bob
you
says
know.
we need 4 people to make everything even.
Well, so you can tell Bob we totally would, except that requires another $200 upgrade to have more than 2 people. So I have to invest in more money. Which
Wait, you can only do 3 with what we have?
yeah, 1. So a host, which would be you, and then 2 guests is the limit in which we can do. And but if I invest more money, we could do more. At this point, it's $700 to let it randomly shrink and explode his head. So
Yeah, that's yeah, that's what it is.
If you guys are wondering where I'm using a drum app.
Yep, that's where the rim shot comes from.
Yep.
in the forums for this software, it's just people raging on how it's half baked and shouldn't be working or is working, and they're so angry and But the goal is hopefully in a month it's just rock stable. I'm not going to say pioneering this technology, but the only other options like Google Hangouts, Skype, a few of those other ones, they're pretty clunky. And at least this company, when they do get it dialed in, they make it really nice so that all Joel had to do, we sent him a link and he clicks on a link and that's all he has to do on his end, which makes it really easy when you're interviewing someone because they don't have to know the technologies. So.
This is weird.
ROADs.
Yeah. It is, I mean, obviously with anything that's new, is always going to be a little bit crazy. And obviously the audio side of it, though, I'm pretty happy to say that the audio actually works pretty darn well. So the video seems to be the one thing that is odd, obviously, especially with the sizing that keeps getting, trying to figure out how to resize it.
When we tested with Bob,
Video
was fine. It was the whole the whole like my brain can't work. The audio that wasn't working, and now we got it. Tazawa Tanks was taunting me with karaoke's or croquettes that he was eating for dinner because he knows I like them. And then it's always weird when you give someone your cell phone number and then you randomly get it and you're like, who the? And then you got to go read their old text like, oh, that's who this person is. Because I didn't. So that's like a subtle burn. I didn't put you in my phone apparently. So, but it's always weird when they, it's something like, clearly this person knows me and now I need to read the history to see how do I know them. I figured it out pretty quick.
Oh, I never have that happen.
I think YouTube just angry because we spelled it TEKMOLOGIES. And like, I'll show you.
We'll show you how this works or not.
Yeah.
I can't believe there's so few people. Is it just too late? Are people in bed?
It's late night.
The problem is, I think I built most of my user base based around grandmas, and they go to bed at like 4 p.m., so I've learned a lesson here.
Well, there's only so many grandmas in Australia and New Zealand. There's only so many. And I'm getting notifications that people are sending out the notification that we're live now. So maybe we should have done a little bit of 5 minutes of promo. Like, oh, hey, this is happening.
You mean we should have saved our best content? Because I'm out now. Like I gave it all I had at the beginning there.
Oh, have you run out? You've run out of steam already?
Yeah, you actually witnessed like there was a climactic point there, and then it went down, and we're definitely in that downward slope at this point.
Well,
so
we're
on the back end, yeah.
That was the high water mark.
So, Michael, we're testing that Joel is remote, and it should be relatively decent video quality and audio without having to use something like Google Hangouts, which everyone does use and we've used before, but that video is pretty poor, and mostly just trying to get this set up. I'm trying to harangue Joel into doing like a podcast type of thing, because he's got rad voice and stories, and I can say a lot, and so I was thinking that was pretty much a match.
Yeah, so while you guys were out of town, and of course we didn't talk about this ahead of time, but while you guys were out of town, I ran a little community poll, and I don't know if you guys saw that or not.
I did not.
But I ran a little community poll on whether or not, let me pull this up here so I don't misquote the percentages here. So the community poll was basically like who's interested in a podcast or not, and it was pretty much exactly what I was hoping. Let me find it here. I'm gonna scroll up from my phone.
It says yes if you pay us.
So we only got yeah, that's right. Yeah, if you pay us
them
to listen to your voice, cool. So it was basically 50-50.
Wow, I would have thought everyone would just be like, yes, please.
It was basically 50-50 of essentially 50% of the people. So I gave 3 options. I gave like yes, maybe, and no. 40% of the people just said, nah, I need video in order to complete my internet experience.
Fair. I mean, I do look pretty good, but they were thinking about you, so.
12% were just kind of in the middle, and then 50% were like yes. So it's basically exactly what I thought it would have come out as. Is basically like half the people are interested in just listening to some audio, and those are more often like people that commute a long amount of time, or have a really isolated kind of job where they can listen and work at the same time, but not obviously, like if you're a forklift operator, it's probably a bad idea to be operating your forklift and watching video as you drive around, right? But you can definitely listen to podcasts while you do that. So I was assuming it was probably about 50-50, and after that poll, it was like, oh yeah, okay, so about half of the crowd would be interested in some kind of goofy, whatever you want to call it, even if it isn't necessarily fish talk 100% of the time. I think there are people that are interested in it. So I think it's a good idea to go forward on at least an idea. I'm not sure where the benchmark of content is though in the podcast realm. So I was kind of looking around.
Yeah, I don't even know what that statement means.
Well, it's like how much a week? How much a week do people make in as far as podcasts, right? And it's all across the board.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's what I found when I researched. I was like, some people are daily, some people are literally 7 minutes. Then there's things like 6 hours a day at least, you know?
Right. Yeah, so there's like, from like Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs, his is 4 minutes long.
I didn't know he had a podcast, but I must subscribe because I think he's amazing, and he's got a wicked cool voice that is only amplified even more when you can only listen, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's 4 minute, it's like 4 to 5 minutes, and it's basically like his musings or whatever about it's sort of a life lesson or something, and it may be him just reading out of a book or something that he found that was really neat, but oftentimes with his own perspective. But it's only him is only 4 minutes, right? But then, like, let's say you go up to Joe Rogan, and he does 15 hours a week, so it runs the whole gambit or whatever. But in my mind, I was thinking that probably twice a week, hour and a half long show, I think is probably, beginning of the week, end of the week kind of thing is kind of what I was thinking. But
I shoot for 1 hour just so that, I don't know, I feel like much less. What I really hate is like the randomness where it's like, oh, that one's 27 minutes, then this one's 49 minutes, and then it's 12. And then I feel like most people, and this is me assuming, most people are using it like driving to and from work. And then if you can get like here's your 30 minutes to work, 30 minutes from home from work, you get that full hour in or something like that,
Yeah. So sort of like how I do my live stream Monday through Friday, I do it I set aside an hour, right? I go from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock. That's when the show will be on. And then if we end up going over, I don't think anybody's really upset if it does go over, but I don't think anything under an hour you can really even necessarily get into what you may or may not want to be getting into,
There could be.
Like,
yeah,
the pyramids of Egypt. You couldn't really explain them in 15 minutes, I don't think you could.
Nice synopsis.
Right. Otherwise we just would watch the news where you get like these 90-second stories,
Just enough to go, that was interesting, and
You're
then it's gone.
Something happened, I think. I'm not 100% sure because now they're talking about the weather. I don't know.
So I know when we talked in the past, and someone else saying here they'd be not interested in audio only, I think we were talking about doing this format, but then also just pushing it to the podcast, yeah? Or do you think we should do only no video type of podcast?
Well, I'm a big fan of doing the live stream with the video because I think it's a really good format because it also has interactivity. I'm down to kind of honestly do both. I don't really.
Yeah, I just thought of another thing too. Like, what if we did this, like what we're doing right now, but it wasn't live, and then Jimmy can edit it into something that works for like YouTube or something. So it's like, oh, remember when we tangent off there, but I think that's what people like anyway. But I'm just wondering if there's a way to make it slightly different. So it's like, hey, you're getting the full meal deal on the audio, and then like maybe in the video we can release it at a time that makes sense or something, or like, because I know you do like a Cliff Notes section on your channel for some of your things, and I wonder if it makes sense to be like, yeah, instead of an hour, this is actually 18 minutes, or because like let's say we're talking about filtration or just any other topic, you really got to be dedicated to want to listen to an hour of it, as opposed to like, oh yeah, I got the Cliff Note version in 18 minutes. You rambled on about denitrifying bacteria for 40 minutes, and so we were able to get that down to 3, and then you could understand the rest of the talk as well.
Yeah, I think that realistically, if we do have the ability to do the video and all that kind of stuff, I don't see why it would be a downside, and we could definitely do the longer version, and then I don't know what
the other thing I just thought about.
How would we release that? So let's say we release like a 10-minute clip just to keep the number round, right?
Yeah.
And then so you and I would record for like an hour, let's just say for an hour, and then Jimmy could cut it down to a 10-minute clip where it made sense. people could watch it on YouTube and then go, oh, wait, there was more to this, because you chop in some segues, and then you could listen to the podcast if you wanted to hear like the full hour.
And then if we didn't do it live, which I realize I do love live format, but if we didn't do it live, Jimmy can totally enhance all the video and everything. Be like, oh yeah, they were talking about this thing. I managed to find a clip from the video they were talking about, and then, oh yeah, here's the drawing of them trying to explain how this thing works. And so we'd have the graphics for the video and that type of thing, and do magical stuffs like intros and outros and those types of things as well.
Yeah, I think that would probably be most likely the best way to go about it. I think.
Jimmy just needs to do more.
I would think. I would think that, like, if we did two, like, let's say if we did 2 shows a week and we did one that was cut down.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We could do like one that's live as well.
And then we could do one that's live or something along those lines. I think that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think realistically well, and also the live show can always just be, the audio could just be ripped and loaded up.
Mm-hmm.
If people wanted to just continue to listen to just the audio, that would work too,
Yeah, that's what we do right now. So,
yeah,
yes,
I think between you and I think we're both pretty good at reading out loud the whatever question we're answering.
Yeah, that's a big part of read the question and then address it, as opposed to, it's always distracting for me when it's like you're just reading statements and then like you just bust into something like, wait, what is he talking about? Oh, and then you figure it out like 30 seconds later. Oh, he's referencing that question. It's just good practice to, it's the Q&A panel. So when I'm in person, someone whispers that question to you and then you repeat it to the entire room. And then you look dumb. I don't know how to answer that, actually. My bad.
Well, yeah. Well, that's one of the things. On my show, it would be probably a little bit easier for me to not do it because I put the chat into the video. But I always try to remember to read it out loud because I think that's a bad habit to just assume that that people are reading the chat, as they're watching the show. But
yeah, I mean, I never read the chat because it's an audio thing for me.
Right.
Like, I'm always just listening, and then when I laugh, I switch back to the screen,
right.
type in the standard LOL, so that way you have, it's like my saying thank you, and then and then I go back to the depths where I came from.
That's right. Well, I mean, I'm the same way because I'm a big fan of being able to listen to stuff in the background while I'm working on things and don't necessarily need to watch the video. This came up like I think Thursday. I think we were talking about it on Thursday, but because people were like, I don't know why you haven't watched my video, and it's like, well, I can't watch 10,000 people's videos, first of all, and then second of all, like, if I have to actually watch your video, it's probably not going to come up in my feed. Because I'll play it in the background. I'll normally play stuff in the background, and if you have the type of video where if you have like a 5-minute video that just plays music, I don't want to hear that music, honestly. And not to downplay anybody's musical choices or anything, but typically free music isn't that good. The stuff that's on there. So that's kind of the takeaway that I get, is that I try to make the show in regards to like what I would listen to. And I know that it turned off a lot of people for sure, but I'm more interested in almost the radio aspect of it and being able to listen to people that are talking about stuff, but also having the video so I can check in on things if there is something that's like, oh, hey, come look at this, so.
Yeah, no, I think that's I personally feel like, I think I said this on my technology channel, if you will, or whatever, that most people can't use music correctly, myself included. Like, it was when I first learned I could kind of edit and do that, I was like, oh yeah, I should do this. This is what people do when they're good at video, and so I'm going to do that. Right. And then I realized it's actually terrible, and now I realize that when I watch other stuff that has music, and we're talking about like even Casey Neistat, other big things, I'm just like, you know, it's really easy to miss the mark. And I know that in retail, like, you could do a bunch of research, and if you play a certain type of music, it's going to evoke a certain mood, but then it also angers a certain amount of people, you know, and no matter what, you would think that like Christmas music is safe, and it's not, because it actually triggers with everyone that's lost like a loved one during Christmas.
I love Christmas music.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, if you lost your loved one during Christmas, you get, 3 months of hell, essentially. You know?
Well, right. I mean, the reason to have audio is, audio, as far as like music goes, is to evoke an emotion, especially, from the production side. Like, let's say you're making a video or a movie or whatever.
Or most dramatic, useless video ever.
Right, like the most dramatic, useless video ever. It's behind the scenes. Which there's good reason for that music to be in there. It's well cut together, but it's also to evoke an emotion, and the problem for me is, like, as a consumer. So, okay, here's two big channels that I watch. So, like you mentioned, Casey Neistat, right? Mm-hmm. I do watch some of Casey Neistat's stuff because I really admire some of his work. But another big YouTuber would be Philip DeFranco that I listen to, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you try to listen to Casey Neistat's videos, you're missing at least 50% of what's going on, right?
Yeah,
because most of his audio is like, there's break beats with time lapse of him riding up an escalator or whatever, getting on an airplane. Okay, get it. Whereas like Philip DeFranco's like a 20-minute long show, and you don't need to see the video, even though the video does accommodate what his show is. Mm-hmm. You don't need it to at least hear the story of what's going on and stuff like that. If that makes sense. So the difference between those two.
No, and you're right. I just didn't notice because even I consume it that way. Philip DeFranco, the background. Casey Neistat. If I'm gonna watch it, you gotta watch it, because otherwise you're just hearing music and knowing you're missing cinematic shots of something.
Right. I mean, he lives or die via the drone shot. Mm-hmm. So if you miss the drone shot, if you miss the time lapse, if you miss him almost getting run over in traffic, there's not a lot of content there, realistically, because there's not a lot of story being told, which I appreciate what he does. I think it's great, and I do watch it, but it's not something that I can consume necessarily on a regular basis. It's something I might catch up on 2 weeks later when I have a half an hour to, click through a couple of videos, which that's not necessarily how I want to engage. It's just being this sort of, here's a cinematic take, and Samsung paid me $3 million to fall out of a helicopter,
Yeah.
Like, not to say that isn't enjoyable, but especially on like a daily basis, that's not something I would want to do. But I do like your idea that maybe we do one, because let's say if we did like the Monday show, then we could recut the highlights throughout the week, and then maybe do the Friday live, or vice versa, or Wednesday, or whatever, whatever days are good for me. I know most people have been watching my channels that I'm working my way out of not doing the crazy construction jobs anymore.
So for the chat, just to be fair here, I'm not saying that you guys shouldn't use music. It is my stance that most people can't use it correctly. So when you have someone brought up like the thing of like all movies have music. Yes, they also have like a team of people and go through hundreds of edits of music and video and test it on people and do those types of things. I'm mostly saying when you say like, let's take a trip to this fish store, and then it's 50 minutes of the same 2-minute song looped. Like, that's not a good use of music there. That is like, let me cover up the audio that was there with something that is less abrasive but still abrasive. So when I described it best, I think, on my like technology channel, was that I myself am horrible at choosing the music. I also don't know how to use it appropriately and convey the right feel, where I feel like Jimmy has a better handle on it. But as you guys have even seen when we release a video, you guys will say like, oh, this was depressing, or it gave this feel, or something like that. So clearly we didn't choose it quite correct, but I know his skill is better at it than mine, and in general, a little bit goes a long way. So we're not trying to just replace the whole thing of like, here's, the disco dance track as I build a stand.
Yeah.
Where's that track? I want to use it.
That's right. So it's,
we're going to let the bass drop. Well,
I would just say that most
some,
people
polyurethane.
have no training in how to pair music to shots, myself included. And I don't think Jimmy has any formal training, but it's a gets better as you do it type of thing. And so you got to start somewhere. But a lot of channels just literally like just put the same track to the music or to the video, myself included. My time-lapse music, I love that music. A lot of people like that music, and we just used it over and over and over and over again. The problem is you alienate whoever doesn't like it, but that's okay in the marketing world, right? If you got to sell this thing to a 17-year-old female, you can pick the track that's going to do that. Whereas, it's not going to resonate with the 60-year-old man, but that item's not for them anyway. So, and here on YouTube, really, we're trying to appeal to a very broad audience. It's a fish keeper, and there's no real, studies on, this track, what is it? I'm a Barbie girl, but who does that? It's something like, who does I'm a Barbie girl?
Aqua?
Yes. So, it's not confirmed that I'm a Barbie girl will resonate with the aquatic thing, even though it's aqua.
Joel has a General Zod look going on. Hail to Zod.
That's right.
Pretty good.
So yeah, anyway, that's my little side rant about music, and I'm sure there's 1 out of 100 people that like have that on lock and are like, they've got that ear and they can really make some magical things happen. And then there's the 99% of us that are actually terrible at it, and we're just making the internet worse for it. So that is my soapboxing on the music.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to utilize music sometimes. I really don't do it anymore because more often than not, I find myself ending up making the music, which is pretty laborious. If anybody out there has ever programmed music into a computer, it does take a really long time, and for me, the reward wasn't really there, honestly, just from how much I was working on it, and which is one of the reasons that I moved over to the live stream format myself, was because, if I spent 10 hours working on some audio to upload a 7-minute video or something like that, and then it got 4,000 views or something, it's like it just really, I was going backwards as far as like with how much production I was doing versus it was like how much production I was doing in order to produce something to try and like teach people. So that's why I walked away from it. Was like, I didn't have enough time to be able to get, impart some help to people, because I was spending time like, making, I got to make more beats for the next videos coming up this next week or whatever, instead of essentially like answering some people's questions, showing people how to do stuff, showing people how to fix things that may or may not be right or wrong. Whoa.
I think you're just crazy enough to make original music for like everything, where I just need you to make me a jingle and I will play it till we run the tape out on that thing.
Well, at some point in time, we'll put some, Jimmy and I'll get together and we'll put our heads together on what style of jingle you guys what you're looking for the Aquarium Coop channel, for the Coop channel.
Yeah. Some real gangster rap, I'm sure, is the fitting.
Some OG gangster rap.
Yeah, that's the most fitting for my style, I feel. Yeah.
That would like some, Grandmaster Flash, Jam Master Jay, those guys, the real old school. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Has anyone got any fish questions? Or, Jimmy ran out of here like a kid that's 3 that has to scream, I have to go pee. He pretty much hands flailing, run to the bathroom because he didn't, that's how Jimmy is. He doesn't know he has to go to the bathroom till he's got about 4 seconds.
It's like it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be a problem.
Yeah. That's why he has to run to do it. So could take this time to mention the whole Patreon thing where you can support creators like Joel over at Patreon, and my whole shtick is pick it doesn't have to be your favorite 3, but pick 3 creators on YouTube that you enjoy and then go give them $1. And if all of the subscribers that I have and you have and other people have did that, YouTubers would be able to make some insane things happen. Even if your subscriber base gave you $5,000 a month, you would, be able to do lots of cool stuff with that. Similarly, at $87,000, I would have to, buy penguins for the homeless at that point because that's a lot of money. But, yeah. But I think it'll make a huge difference on everyone who isn't able to monetize their channel like I am. Like I have a business, obviously, and so you guys support me that way. But it also gives, when we were talking about this a little bit earlier, a way to support us even when you're in a different country. Like I can't ship to you, and you guys want to show me your support. And the same thing, when you support someone, you kind of invest in them, and it's more rewarding of an experience for that. So I do appreciate everyone that gives me their dollars, and maybe someday we can collect enough dollars, and I can start shipping outside the U.S. and own my own postal service guy that can navigate me through that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that was recently one of the issues with me. I was sending a bunch of paintings overseas, and realistically, hadn't necessarily calculated exactly how much the shipping was going to be, which is one of those minor issues that I run into on a regular basis, and that's why I kind of started up the. Well, that's not the reason I started up the Patreon, but that is an example of why I started up the Patreon, is that we run into a lot of costs in order to be producing and making stuff. And like you said earlier, most people wouldn't realize that the Wirecast, just the software that we're using right now, was, a $700 investment, which most people don't realize that something like just the software in order to make things operate costs that much money. So, when I've come out and talked to people about certain things, they're like, "Oh my God, I didn't realize it cost that much." And that's why we started the Patreon. And one of the big reasons for that is that YouTube can be pretty discretionary on whether or not they want to pay out on anything anymore. I mean, they demonetize people's videos on a regular basis now. And that has been an ongoing issue, especially with smaller channels and bigger channels.
The hilarious part is Gary Lang swore on the live stream. That one didn't get demonetized, and then half the time other live streams get demonetized before we're even done with them. And we don't swear, and somehow it's like there's no rhyme or reason to it at all.
Right. And yeah, there's no rhyme, there's no reason, there's no one thing that you could point at where you're like, oh, I was swearing, so of course, Disney's mad, so no, demonetized. But there really is no rhyme or reason to how YouTube doles out their money, whether they're going to or not, and it is kind of a problem, especially for one thing, the really big channels that are dependent on that money, and the really small channels that are dependent on that money. So we started up the Patreon because it's like, if somebody like me, I'm doing 5 shows a week at 5 hours a week, and 4 weeks in a month, there's at least 20 hours of show, and people are going, oh, hey, that's worth $1, $3, $5, $10. That's a pretty good turnaround as far as the production goes, and then it also takes the burden off of, for instance, a lot of young people that may or may not have the ability to help fund anything, right?
Yeah.
And they're able to watch for free, or, people that can contribute can, and then people that can't don't have to. So that's kind of the long game, I guess, is in order to.
I really want to see it by like, Flynn's Fish Forum, the Turtle Girl, Danny's Aquariums, like those types of 12 to 16-year-olds, like better cameras or just a better microphone, just stuff that, I bet it's kind of hard to convince, your Santa that you need a $600 camera to further your YouTube career. They just look at you like you're completely wasting time, and yet it's good for the development of that teenager. Like, oh yeah, I went down this road, I invested my money, and then it turned out to be a horrible decision or a good decision or whatever. And it's one of the ways I can help, redistribute some of the money from the top down. Not that I am, at the top, but I would say I'm in the middle of the pack somewhere and know exactly what it's like to be at the bottom, where everything's coming out of pocket and you're trading life, I won't say necessities, but stuff you want in your life so that you can do something else on the internet a little bit better. So
yeah, that's realistically one of the big issues, is that that most people on the outside looking in don't necessarily see. It's like if I go out and I shoot video for like 5 hours, 6 hours of me doing whatever, that's time that I'm not earning a living. You know what I mean? So that's the big trade-off for me at this point, is that I'm not making an income when I'm out doing all that kind of stuff. And then on top of it, everything costs a ton of money to produce. It's like, the computer I built here was, $2,300 just to build the computer, and then of course it resizes and makes it all super big on the $700 software. Keeps resizing all weird. So it's like, from, I guess, like we were talking earlier with like movie productions, it's like when they send the audio off, there's a group of 50 people that are going to work on it for 3 months before anybody hears it. Then they're going to go back and work on it again for another month. And people don't see that when they go to a movie, but they pay the $20 to go see a movie. And that's where all that money ends up going, and so that's really the reason for the Patreon for me, is just to work on improving the production, like bringing people in, fixing microphones, like figuring out how to resize the video so that it works properly when I have to go buy new software again, because 6 months has gone by, so they're not gonna fix the old software because they have the new software now.
Yep.
So
yes, that is a shrimp painting behind Jimmy from Corvus. He did paint that. And you got that because Jimmy was actually supporting Corvus well before I was, I'm pretty sure. He was a longer supporter than I was.
Yeah, but like $5. Nowhere near the amount you...
I honestly don't believe it's the amount. I think it's the longevity and thing like that.
It's the love.
Yeah, like it's everyone, contributes at their own level,
Yeah, that was so there are some people that were kind of confused about my Patreon. So my Patreon doesn't necessarily have rewards. It's essentially like you're a helping fund. You're part of the community. It's a great page too, because you can put like messages up on there and stuff like, hey, I need you to answer this question. And for my format, that means I can answer it like the next day, or maybe a day later if it's something that I need to like shoot some video for or something like that. But those shrimp paintings there, those were for just the original 10 Patreons, right? The people that were patronizing. It wasn't a dollar amount. It was just basically the first 10, realistically. And fortunate for me, basically the total Patreon support went to shipping when I had to ship most of them international. So.
Wow.
Yeah. That's why I don't do anything international anymore, because I always think like, okay, let's give $100 light away, and then I'm thinking, yeah, it'll be $40 a ship, and then you get there and you're like, wait, to Italy is $172?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize I was giving away $372 worth of stuff or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So it was kind of one of those things. So
let's do a couple of fish questions. I don't remember. I can't read it, so I'm going to paraphrase it because I lost it. But basically, someone bought some mollies on Aquabid, hit them with a bunch of meds and stuff like that, and they have like a blue spangle on the top of their head. I feel like that is just like a, without seeing a picture, like it's got a little bit of blue in it from like a wild caught molly or something, like a sailfin. It's just like a natural pigmentation there that just stands out. I can't think of any disease that would be showing blue.
I can't think of any disease that would be showing blue. That is odd.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's my insight to that is maybe it's not a disease, and a lot of times we just assume what's different is a disease when it could just be he's just different or she.
It could just be weird coloring.
Yeah. I mean, maybe. So the other thing I could possibly think of, and this is a real stretch, it had a bunch of dead tissue, and then something like Icex stained it blue, because you can do that with like methylene blue.
Yeah, like methylene blue could do that.
What are your thoughts, Jimmy?
I have no idea what you guys are talking about. I was making faces.
I know. This is why I asked you.
All right. Well, I actually have to cut this short.
All right.
We're 40 minutes in.
Yeah, that's cool.
45 minutes in. Well,
It seems to be working well
I thought
enough.
we were going to be 20 minutes, but it's 45 minutes in, so I got to go take care of my lady. So,
hey, whoa,
think,
whoa,
I
Sunday,
think this is
Saturday night show here.
well, I got to finish with dinner.
Burn the rice.
But yeah, the rice burned, so now the other rice is ready. So I'm going to go
Nice.
finish up the dinner here. But I think this is a good precursor to anybody out there that's watching that we're going to be working on more projects like this coming up. And,
As time allows.
yeah,
I
as
just
time
need
allows.
to find out why you resize, and it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Well,
Weird.
I'm hoping that
you on
time
your
will
terms.
solve that. Like, the patch will just come out and be like, yeah, good thing we didn't spend all day trying to figure that out because they fixed it. It was on their end. I'm fairly certain it's on their end.
It could be resizing, but either way, well, I mean, I know it's resizing, but it could be resizing on my end because it could be my settings on my camera.
Yeah, it has to be. Maybe it's a lag issue and it compensates somehow.
It could be that, and I also could have my my camera settings on some weird stuff. And as we've spoke about in the past, considering I have to disable and re-enable my video card all the time in order to so that I can edit video. And it's been a while since I restarted my computer, so that could be one of the issues with the camera resizing. Might just be trying to figure out which size it's supposed to be set to from here.
One day we'll get it figured out.
Yep.
We'll buy our way through technology if we have to. That's what they want.
Yeah, they just want us to buy more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, this one. You know how you wanted it to work last time? This one works like the way you wanted it to when you paid for it last time.
Right.
Ooh, and they sell it to you as a feature. Like,
Yeah.
this one will actually do it.
Yeah, we fixed all the stuff that was broken when we sold it to you the first time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, all right. Well, we're not live tomorrow or anything, so I think the next time you could see one of us that's on here. Are you doing like a Sunday teach people how to internet type of thing, Jimmy?
Me?
Yeah. Not this Sunday. You're resting up.
No, I
You gotta
have to
edit?
just edit.
So then that means
do
it's
it my day.
Corvus. Corvus at 4 p.m. specific time on Monday. I think is the next dose of
Monday.
weird.
There won't be any show tomorrow. I think we have more stuff to do with Vicky tomorrow, and then of course Seahawks starts at 5. So
Ooh, you're one of those people.
people over watching the football. Yeah,
Oh, jeez.
Nice.
I'm the
Ah,
anti-sport.
jeez.
Jeez.
anti-sports. Sports.
All right, guys.
That's a lovely sporting fellow.
So
All
let's
right.
have Jimmy end this and see if Wirecast just literally explodes.
I wonder if it just catches on fire when you go to turn it off.
Could be. It might not even turn off. Who knows? Maybe it'll like start a second stream. Oh, that wasn't a joke. Come on now. Come on.
Okay, later.
Later.
Later.